The sun was just beginning to peek over the horizon, casting a soft golden glow across the quiet streets of Willow Creek. A typical suburban neighborhood where manicured lawns stretched out like green carpets and white picket fences lined the driveways. Birds chirped lazily from the branches of oak trees, and the air carried the faint scent of fresh-cut grass mixed with morning dew. It was the kind of place where families dreamed of settling down, far from the chaos of the city, a haven of predictability and peace. But on this particular morning, that peace was about to shatter. Meet Alex Thompson, a 28-year-old software engineer with a boyish grin and a passion for tinkering in his garage. Just 3 months ago, he'd scraped together every penny from his savings to buy his first home here. A cozy 2-story colonial with blue shutters and a small backyard perfect for barbecues. It was his pride and joy, the culmination of years of late nights coding apps and skipping vacations. "This is it," he told his friends at the housewarming party, beaming as he flipped burgers on the grill. My own slice of the American dream. Little did he know, that dream was on the verge of turning into a nightmare. As Alex stirred in his bed, the first rays of light filtering through his curtains, a sharp, insistent knocking echoed through the house. It wasn't the friendly rap of a neighbor borrowing sugar. This was urgent, authoritative, like a demand that wouldn't be ignored. Groggy and confused, Alex pulled on a robe and shuffled downstairs, his heart picking up pace with each step. He peered through the peephole and saw a man standing on his porch, tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in a crisp uniform with a badge glinting under the porch light. The man's face was stern, shadowed by a cap, and he clutched a clipboard stacked with papers. Alex cracked the door open, a knot forming in his stomach. "Can I help you?" he asked, his voice still thick with sleep. The man didn't smile. "Mr. Thompson? I'm Inspector Harlan from the Homeowners Association. We've received reports of violations on your property. Code 47B. Unauthorized modifications to the exterior." His tone was flat, mechanical, but there was an edge to it, like a blade hidden in velvet. He thrust a sheet of paper forward, official-looking, stamped with the HOA logo, but something about the ink seemed smudged, the edges uneven as if printed in haste. Alex blinked, his mind racing. "Violations? I just put up a new fence last week. I thought it was fine. I even checked the guidelines." He took the paper, scanning the dense text filled with jargon about fines, liens, and potential seizures. The numbers jumped out at him: $2,500 penalty, escalating daily. His excitement from the home purchase evaporated, replaced by a chill that had nothing to do with the morning air. The inspector leaned in slightly, his eyes narrowing. "Rules are rules, sir. Ignore this, and we'll have no choice but to escalate." "You wouldn't want that." The threat hung in the air, vague yet ominous, like a storm cloud gathering on a clear day. Alex felt a surge of unease. Why so early? Why the pressure? As the man turned to leave, his boots crunching on the gravel, Alex called out, "Wait, who reported this?" "Can I appeal?" The inspector paused, glancing back with a smirk that didn't reach his eyes. "Appeals take time. Pay up or risk losing it all." And with that, he vanished down the street, leaving Alex standing in the doorway, the forged paperwork trembling in his hands. But as Alex would soon discover, this was no ordinary inspection. What if this so-called inspector wasn't from the HOA at all? What if he was something far more sinister, a pawn in a larger game? Stay tuned, because the truth is about to unfold in ways you won't believe. Back in his kitchen, Alex paced back and forth, the crumpled notice from the inspector clutched in his fist like a bad omen. The clock on the wall ticked steadily toward 7 a.m., but his mind was already spinning in overdrive. As a software engineer, he was used to debugging code, logical problems with clear solutions. But this felt like a glitch in reality itself. He poured himself a cup of coffee, the steam rising in lazy swirls, and sank into a chair at the table where he'd spent countless evenings sketching app ideas or video calling his sister in another state. Family was everything to him. His parents had passed a few years back, leaving him and his sibling to lean on each other. Buying this house had been his way of building stability, a place to host holidays and maybe start his own family one day. Now it all seemed under threat over a stupid fence. He smoothed out the paper and read it again, his brow furrowing deeper with each line. Code 47B, unauthorized modifications, he muttered to himself. What even is that? I followed the HOA handbook to the letter. Grabbing his laptop from the counter, Alex fired it up and navigated to the official Willow Creek HOA website. The site was basic: rules, contact info, a portal for dues payments. He dialed the number listed there, his phone pressed to his ear as he drummed his fingers impatiently. After a few rings, a cheerful voice answered. Willow Creek Homeowners Association, this is Karen speaking. How can I help? Hi, this is Alex Thompson at 142 Oak Lane. I just got a violation notice from an Inspector Harlan about my fence. It says I'm in violation of Code 47B with a $2,500 fine. But I checked the guidelines before installing it. Everything seemed fine. Can you look this up? There was a pause, the sound of typing on the other end. Let me pull up your account. Mr. Thompson, I don't see any violations logged for your property. And Code 47B? That doesn't ring a bell. Our codes are numbered differently, starting with Section A for exteriors. Can you read me the notice details? Alex recited the text, his voice growing tighter with frustration. It has your logo on it, but... Wait, the contact email here is different from the one on your site. Yours is admin@willowcreekhoa.org, but this says enforcement@iwchoa.net. And the stamp looks off. The logo's edges are blurry like a bad photocopy. Karen's tone shifted to concern. That doesn't sound right. We don't have an Inspector Harlan on staff. Our team is small, mostly volunteers. This might be a mistake, or, well, we've heard of scams targeting new homeowners. Send me a scan of that notice and I'll flag it for the board. Alex hung up, his pulse racing. Scams? In a neighborhood like this? He snapped a photo of the document and emailed it over, but doubt gnawed at him. Needing a second opinion, he stepped outside, the morning sun now fully up, warming the dew-kissed grass. His neighbor, Mrs. Elena Ramirez, was watering her roses next door, a retired teacher in her 60s with a no-nonsense attitude and a garden that could win awards. She'd lived in Willow Creek for decades and had waved hello during his move-in. "Elena!" Alex called, waving the notice. "You got a minute?" Something weird just happened. She turned off the hose and wiped her hands on her apron, eyeing the paper with skepticism. Another HOA drama? Let me see. These things. Back when I first moved in, we had a fake solicitor going door to door collecting emergency fees for road repairs that never happened. Turned out to be a con artist. Your notice looks fishy. The font doesn't match the official letters I get. Alex nodded, his frustration bubbling over. Exactly. I called the real HOA and they have no record of this. But this guy showed up at dawn, acting all official. Threatened escalation if I don't pay? What if it's tied to some bigger scheme? I read online about these HOA frauds where people forge docs to scare owners into paying up. Elena chuckled dryly. Wouldn't surprise me. Check Reddit. There's a whole community ranting about this stuff. Subreddits like Fuck HOA are full of stories. Phony inspectors slapping liens on properties, mismatched logos on forged papers, even ties to shady developers trying to flip houses. One post I saw was about a neighborhood where the HOA was a total scam, pocketing dues for non-existent services. People ended up with liens they couldn't shake when selling. Inspired, Alex pulled out his phone and searched right there on the spot. Threads popped up with eerie similarities. Homeowners sharing scans of bogus notices with smudged stamps, daily escalating fines for minor violations like unwatered lawns during droughts, or unauthorized bird baths in backyards. One user described a fake inspector demanding cash on the spot. Another warned about money laundering schemes disguised as HOA boards. Alex's eyes widened as he scrolled. This is insane. Look at this one. My HOA turned out to be fraud. Forged docs led to a lien nightmare. It's like my situation exactly. He slammed his phone down on the patio table, exasperation spilling out. I just wanted a quiet place to live, not this crap. I work 50-hour weeks debugging apps. Last thing I need is some crook eyeing my house. If this is fake, who's behind it? And why me? Elena patted his shoulder. Take a breath, kid. Start by documenting everything. If it's a scam, report it to the police. But dig deeper. These things don't happen in a vacuum. As the day wore on, Alex dove into his routine, logging into work from his home office, fielding emails about code bugs while his mind wandered back to the notice. But by afternoon, another envelope arrived in the mail, a follow-up fine escalation to $3,000, with the same mismatched logo and vague threats. His confusion hardened into resolve. This wasn't a one-off mistake, but the fines keep coming. What's the real motive behind this? The days blurred into a tense haze for Alex as the initial notice morphed into a relentless barrage. What started as a single $2,500 fine escalated overnight. Another envelope slipped under his door the next morning, this one demanding $4,000 with bold red stamps screaming, "Urgent, property, lion imminent." He tore it open in his living room, the paper crinkling under his grip, his coffee going cold on the side table. "This can't be happening," he whispered to himself, his voice echoing in the empty house. Work calls piled up on his screen, but focus eluded him. Every ping from his email felt like another nail in the coffin of his dream home. He imagined losing it all, the backyard where he planned to plant a garden, the garage workshop that was his sanctuary. Fear crept in, not just for his finances, but for his safety. What if these people weren't just scammers? What if they came back? That evening, as shadows lengthened across Willow Creek, his phone buzzed with an unknown number. He hesitated, thumb hovering over the screen, before answering. A distorted voice crackled through, low and menacing, like gravel under tires. "Mr. Thompson, you've ignored our warnings. Pay the fines or we'll make sure you regret it." Click. No caller ID, no trace. Alex's heart pounded in his chest, a cold sweat breaking out on his forehead. He paced the floor, glancing at the windows, half expecting silhouettes outside. "Who are you?" he shouted into the empty air, frustration boiling over into anger. Sleep evaded him that night. Every creak in the house amplified his paranoia, turning the once cozy space into a fortress under siege. Desperate for answers, Alex dove deeper into his investigation the next day. From his home office, surrounded by glowing screens and half-eaten takeout, he scoured online forums beyond Reddit, local news archives, property records, even anonymous tip lines. One thread on a real estate whistleblower site caught his eye. Stories of a shadowy group tied to Crestview Developments, a local real estate firm known for aggressive buyouts. Users claimed the company used fake HOA enforcers to harass owners, driving down property values for cheap acquisitions. "They're like a mafia," one post read, "forging docs, sending goons in uniforms to scare people out." Alex cross-referenced names. Inspector Harlan didn't exist in any official database, but a blurry photo in a complaint forum matched the man who'd visited him, linked to low-level hires for Crestview. Emboldened but terrified, Alex reached out to a contact from the Reddit threads, a former resident named Mike who claimed to have fled a similar scam. They connected via video call, Mike's face pixelated on the screen, his voice hushed as if afraid of being overheard. "Listen, kid," Mike said, his tone gravelly from years of chain smoking. "These aren't just fines. Crestview's behind it. They want prime lots like yours for a new condo project. They fabricate violations, pile on pressure until you sell cheap. I lost my place that way. Fake cops showed up one night pounding on the door like they owned the joint, as if summoned by the words that very night brought the escalation Alex dreaded. It was past midnight when the pounding started, heavy fists slamming against his front door, shaking the frame. "Open up! Police!" "We have a warrant for property inspection," a gruff voice bellowed from outside. Alex froze in his bedroom, adrenaline surging. He peeked through the blinds. Two figures in dark uniforms, badges flashing under the streetlight, one wielding a flashlight like a weapon. His mind raced. Real cops? Or more fakes? Trembling, he grabbed his phone to record, whispering into the camera, "If anything happens, this is evidence. Mr. Thompson, this is your final warning." The lead officer shouted, his voice booming with false authority. "Non-compliance with HOA orders. We're here to enforce the lien. Open the door or we'll break it down." Alex's fear twisted into defiance. "Show me the warrant," he yelled back, his voice cracking but steady. Through the door's peephole, he saw them exchange glances, their postures aggressive, but something off. The badges were generic, no department insignia. He dialed 911 quietly, his breath shallow. "Intruders posing as police at my address," he murmured to the dispatcher. Sirens wailed in the distance minutes later, and the imposters bolted into the night, tires screeching as they fled. Shaken but alive, Alex collapsed against the wall as real officers arrived, taking his statement. "This matches reports we've had," one cop admitted, a stern woman with a notepad. "Ties to organized real estate flips. You're not the first." As Alex pieced it together, the anonymous calls, the forged fines, the Mafia-like tactics of Crestview, a chilling realization dawned. But as Alex digs deeper, he finds a personal connection. Why him specifically? The adrenaline from the fake police visit lingered like a bad hangover, but it fueled Alex's determination. He couldn't just wait for the next shoe to drop. He needed allies, real ones, not the shadowy figures haunting his doorstep. Back at his laptop the following morning, with dark circles under his eyes and a third cup of coffee in hand, he revisited the Reddit threads and whistleblower sites. One name kept popping up in the comments: Lydia Voss, a former HOA board member from a neighboring suburb who'd blown the whistle on similar schemes 2 years ago. Her posts were cryptic but damning. Warnings about Crestview Development's Mafia tactics, complete with scanned documents and anonymous tips. "They prey on the vulnerable," one of her entries read. "New buyers, young professionals without deep roots or legal savvy. Easy marks for flipping properties into luxury condos." Alex hesitated only a moment before sending her a private message through the forum. "I'm dealing with fake inspectors and escalating fines tied to Crestview. Your story sounds exactly like mine. Any advice?" To his surprise, she replied within hours. "Meet me at the coffee shop on Elm Street. 2 p.m. Come alone." Her voice on the confirmation call was sharp, edged with caution, like someone who'd looked over her shoulder too many times. The cafe was a neutral ground, bustling with lunchtime chatter that masked their conversation. Lydia was in her late 40s with sharp features and a no-frills ponytail, nursing a black coffee as Alex slid into the booth across from her. "You're brave or stupid for reaching out," she said without preamble, her eyes scanning the room. "Crestview isn't just developers. They're a network. They hire ex-cons as inspectors, forge HOA docs to create liens, then swoop in with lowball offers when owners panic. And young buyers like you? You're their sweet spot. No family networks here, no history with the community. They bet you'll fold fast rather than fight." Alex leaned in, his voice low. "Why me, though? My house isn't even prime real estate." Lydia slid a folder across the table, printouts of property maps and email leaks. "Look closer. Your block is the last holdout in their expansion zone. They've already bought out 3 neighbors quietly. The fines? Just the opening act to wear you down." Inspired by her intel, Alex ramped up his evidence gathering. He ordered a set of discreet hidden cameras online, small motion-activated devices he installed around his property that night, his hands steady despite the knot in his stomach. One in the front porch light, another overlooking the backyard fence, all synced to his phone app. "If they come back, I'll have proof," he told himself, testing the feeds as shadows danced across his lawn. The near miss came sooner than expected. 2 nights later, as rain pattered against the windows, his phone buzzed with an alert at 3 a.m. Heart slamming, Alex bolted upright and checked the app. Grainy footage showed a figure in a hooded jacket lurking at his back gate, jiggling the lock with tools that glinted under the motion light. The intruder muttered curses, his voice muffled but audible on the audio feed. "Damn thing's reinforced. Boss said this kid's an easy target." Alex's blood ran cold. This wasn't random. It was targeted. He watched, frozen, as the figure tried forcing the gate, the wood creaking under pressure. But the new deadbolt held, and distant car horns spooked the intruder, who fled into the storm, leaving behind a dropped glove that Alex retrieved at dawn, emblazoned with a faint Crestview logo. Shaken, Alex shared the footage with Lydia via encrypted email. "This proves it," she replied in a hurried voice message, her tone urgent. "I've seen this playbook. They target young singles because you don't have kids or spouses to rally support, less mess. But scale-wise, it's bigger than Willow Creek. Crestview's flipped dozens of properties across 3 counties, using fake HOAs to launder the deals. One victim I know lost everything. Another fought back and vanished. Suspicious accident. Together, they compiled more evidence. Alex spent hours on online forums, cross-referencing user stories with public records. Animated visuals in his mind's eye played out like a montage. Screenshots of forged liens piling up on his screen. Maps highlighting targeted neighborhoods with red pins for young buyers' homes. Email chains from leaked Crestview memos hinting at acquisition incentives for their hired muscle. Lydia provided insider docs, old HOA minutes showing board members with ties to the company, including a suspiciously generous consulting fee trail. As the pieces fell into place, Alex's fear evolved into a steely resolve, but the stakes felt higher than ever. A subplot emerged in their discussions: how Crestview systematically profiled victims through public data, social media posts about new home purchases, job listings for remote workers like him, even dating apps signaling single status. "They know you're isolated," Lydia warned during their next meetup, her eyes darting to the door. "That's why the anonymous calls, the break-in attempts, to break your spirit." With a folder of damning evidence now in hand, videos, docs, and witness accounts, Alex felt ready to strike back. He scheduled a confrontation at the next HOA board meeting, his pulse racing at the thought. But as he prepared, a nagging doubt surfaced. Lydia's warnings about vanished whistleblowers, the near miss at his gate. With proof in hand, Alex confronts the HOA, but is it a trap? The weight of the evidence folder felt like armor as Alex prepared for the HOA board meeting that evening, but doubt gnawed at him like a persistent itch. Lydia's warnings echoed in his mind. It's bigger than you think. And the near-miss break-in had left him jumpy, every shadow in his house a potential threat. He double-checked his hidden cameras, their feeds humming softly on his phone, and slipped a thumb drive with the compiled footage into his pocket. "This ends tonight," he muttered, his voice steadier than he felt. Outside, the Willow Creek Community Center loomed under sodium lights, a bland building that now pulsed with ominous energy. As he stepped inside, the air thick with the scent of stale coffee and tension, he spotted the board members at a long table, stern faces, clipboards, and at the head, the HOA president. "Mr. Harlan Crow." "Wait, Harlan?" The name hit like a thunderclap. Could it be the same as the fake inspector? No, that Harlan had been the goon. This was the puppet master, his face smoother, more polished, but with the same cold eyes. The meeting droned on with mundane agenda items, lawn maintenance, pool fees, but Alex's turn came during open comments. He stood, heart hammering like a drum in his chest, and laid out the folder on the table with a thud that echoed through the room. "I've been harassed by fake inspectors, threatened with forged fines, and nearly broken into, all tied to Crestview developments. And you, Mr. Crow, you're involved." Gasps rippled through the small crowd of neighbors, but Crow's expression barely flickered, a smirk tugging at his lips as he leaned back. "Baseless accusations, young man." "Security, escort him out!" Chaos erupted. 2 burly men, the same inspectors from before, lunged from the shadows, their boots pounding against the linoleum floor in a rhythmic stomp that amplified the menace. "You're done here," one growled, grabbing Alex's arm with vice-like fingers. The room spun as Alex twisted free, his phone already in hand, dialing 911 with trembling thumbs. "Police! There's an assault at the Willow Creek Center! Fake enforcers attacking!" He shouted into the receiver, his voice cracking but defiant. The dispatcher responded amid the scuffle, "Units en route! Stay on the line!" A twist unfolded in the frenzy. One of the goons, the original Inspector Harlan, hesitated, his eyes darting to Crow. "Boss, this is getting hot. We should bail." But Crow snarled, betrayal flashing in his gaze. "You idiot, shut him up!" Harlan lunged again, knocking Alex against a wall with a crash that rattled chairs. Pain shot through Alex's shoulder, but fear transformed into fury, a raw primal surge that washed away the nights of paranoia. "No more!" Alex roared, shoving back with surprising force, his voice booming over the commotion. The sound of splintering wood from a toppled podium added to the immersion, like a crack of thunder in the confined space. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder, a piercing Doppler effect that built unbearable tension. The goons panicked, bolting for the exit in a desperate chase. Harlan shoving past neighbors, his footsteps echoing down the hallway like fleeing rats. Crow tried to slip out a side door, barking into his phone. "Get the car! Abort!" But Alex, adrenaline fueling him, blocked the path long enough for the real police to burst in, badges flashing, commands sharp as gunshots. "Hands up! Everyone freeze!" Cuffs clicked shut amid shouts and struggles, the metallic snap resonating like justice served. As officers hauled Harlan away, he cracked under pressure, his voice a frantic whine. "It was Crow's idea. He's on Crestview's payroll, faking HOAs to seize properties for their condos. Check the emails." Revelations poured out. Crow wasn't just the president. He was a silent partner in Crestview, orchestrating the scams to target young buyers like Alex, forging liens to force sales at rock-bottom prices. The board's volunteers were in on it too, pocketing kickbacks. Alex stood there, breathing ragged, watching Crow slump in defeat, his empire crumbling in real time. In that moment, triumph swelled in Alex's chest, a cathartic release from the fear that had gripped him for weeks. No longer the isolated victim, he felt empowered, his hands steady as he handed over the thumb drive. The officers nodded approvingly. "This evidence, it'll bury them." As the chaos subsided, Alex exhaled deeply, the emotional peak leaving him exhausted but unbreakable, ready for the fallout to finally bring peace. In the weeks following the chaotic board meeting, the pieces of Crestview's empire crumbled like a house of cards under the relentless scrutiny of the law. Alex stood in the county courthouse, the polished wooden benches creaking under the weight of gathered neighbors and reporters, as the judge's gavel came down with a resounding crack that echoed through the room. Based on the evidence presented, forged documents, witness testimonies, and video footage, the court rules in favor of the plaintiffs. The Willow Creek HOA is hereby dissolved, its assets frozen pending restitution. Mr. Crow and his associates face charges of fraud, conspiracy, and racketeering. Cheers erupted from the gallery, a wave of relief washing over the community. Alex exchanged nods with Lydia, who sat nearby, her whistleblower status now vindicated, and even Mrs. Ramirez clapped him on the back, her garden-gloved hands leaving faint dirt smudges on his shirt. The arrests had been swift. Harlan and the goons in zip ties, Crow led away in handcuffs, his smug facade shattered. For the first time in months, Alex felt the grip of fear loosen, replaced by a buoyant sense of victory that lifted his spirits like the morning sun breaking through storm clouds. The community impact rippled outward, transforming Willow Creek from a neighborhood under siege to one reborn in solidarity. With the fake HOA exposed, residents formed a genuine cooperative, voluntary meetings in backyards, shared resources for home improvements, and a neighborhood watch that turned suspicion into support. Properties once targeted for flips were now secure, values stabilizing as the shadow of Crestview lifted. Alex's story made local news, inspiring petitions for stricter regulations on developers and HOAs across the state. "We fought back together," Alex said in a post-hearing interview, his voice steady and empowered. "Injustice thrives in isolation, but resilience comes from community." It was a theme that resonated deeply, echoing the tales of underdogs rising against the odds, much like those young creators in remote villages who, through sheer persistence, turned online hustles into lifelines, building channels from scratch, sharing knowledge, and changing their worlds one video at a time. In the epilogue of his ordeal, Alex's life blossomed anew. He reinforced his fence without a second thought, turning his backyard into a thriving garden where neighbors gathered for barbecues, laughter replacing the echoes of pounding doors. At work, his focus returned sharper than ever, his apps gaining traction as he channeled the experience into a side project. A free tool for homeowners to verify HOA claims digitally. Romantically, he even started dating someone from the community watch group, their shared resilience forging a bond stronger than any lien. No longer haunted by midnight alerts, Alex slept soundly, his home a true sanctuary. Persistence pays off, he'd reflect, drawing parallels to those rural YouTubers grinding through early failures to monetize their passions. Proof that anyone, anywhere, can turn the tide with grit and smarts. So, what can we learn from this HOA horror? Always verify claims. Cross-check documents against official sources, question badges, and document everything. If something feels off, dig deeper. Reach out to forums, neighbors, or authorities before it escalates. Resilience isn't about never facing injustice. It's about standing up when it knocks. If you've got your own HOA nightmare or triumph to share, drop it in the comments below. We'd love to hear how you reclaimed your peace. And if this story hooked you, hit that like button, subscribe for more tales of twisted takeovers, and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Thanks for watching. Stay vigilant out there.